This is the TVB anniversary. We have an extraordinaire, a great man, cool as hell, from the Masterminds Rockers.
Mastermind Kru.
Excuse me, Masterminds Kru.
Right.
My boy, Slick Rick, 183rd. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. And we appreciate you. And we're going to just dive into this real quick. Give us a little, history of your background.
All right. I'm first generation New York Rican, right? Born here in my family.
Okay.
I grew up on Claremont and Webster, 415 Claremont Parkway. So that lands across the street from Claremont Park and down the block from Katona Park. So I was born in between. My neighborhood had the Ghetto Brothers, Savage Skulls, Savage Nomads, the Javelins on the other side of Claremont Park. On the other side of, we had the Black Spades on 3rd Avenue. Then on the other side of Katona Park, you had the Turbans, the Bachelors. So it was like a neighborhood all of gangs. On my block, most of the gangs were on Washington Avenue and Bathgate. Now, when the Ghetto Brothers split up, Karate Pete made the Claremont Boys. Dragon Pete had the New York Dragons. My brother got down with Johnny Kru and Eddie Kru, which were the Kru brothers. In 1974, I started going to Gramercy Boys Club on Washington Avenue and 170th. 171st, 172nd.
Yeah.
That used to be, before it was the Gramercy Boys Club, it was the Bronx House of Detention. Right, so now, my mother put me there to learn karate. Going to karate school, learning kung fu. And so there, the Outlaws were teaching boxing, which was Johnny Kru and his brother Eddie. They were the Kru brothers. Karate Pete, the name karate, you would think he was teaching karate, but no. He was teaching bass and drums. He played a lot of instruments.
And that's Karate Pete from...
The Claremont Boys was originally Ghetto Brothers.
The Ghetto Brothers, yeah, exactly.
So now, there, I learned what was called freestyling, which other people was calling rocking, right? It was freestyling. It was like, just get on the floor, do what you know how to do. We used to dance like the guy said on the video, like James Brown. You know, do the slide, spin, drop down a halfway split, come back up. You know, that's what that was like rocking. But they was doing the, like the up rock, act like they shooting a bow and arrow, different things. And that's where I first started dancing. So from there, going to elementary school down the block and then junior high school later, a friend of mine named Peanut, who was African American from the Webster Projects, the Butler houses. He used to come hang out with us. Peanut, Marvin, John, but we was all in junior high school together and elementary school together. He came one day to the clubhouse and he was like, yo, check this out. He started playing Jam on the Groove. And he did the up movement. He went down to the floor. This was 1976, right? Because I just got into junior high school. He started going on the floor doing four. I was like, yo, I'm used to rocking. What's that? Oh, that's footwork. That's this. All right, cool. It wasn't called breakdancing.
So you first saw it in 76?
In 76.
Okay.
Right, that's where I witnessed it. Now, where he witnessed it and who he got it from, I don't know. But he was like, yo, these are new steps. This is what we're doing. And so I picked it up from him, me and my little brother, Ralphie. And we started doing that. Then now when I got into junior high school, 147, Star Child Rockers in there, track 2. I knew his brother, Brat, who was older. Graffiti writer, TVB.
Yep.
But I knew him from writing graffiti because we also first thing we did before we was dancing was writing on the wall, because everybody else was writing on the wall. I came out my apartment and they were writing on the wall. So like, you know.
A lot of guys were writing before you know they were doing the dance.
Right. And especially like I said, you know, I come out my house, there's people's names is on the wall, and people are writing on the phone booth. People today don't know what a phone booth is, but we have phone booths, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Tagging on the buses. So, you know, and that's how you got to know who was who. Yo, where's this guy from? He's from that neighborhood. You know, turns out they dance too. Oh, what? So, you know, started getting into the dancing. Now, a lot of people don't know, before I founded the Mastermind Kru and Mastermind Rockers, because it was me and my cousin, he would happen to be from Brooklyn. He used to hang out with us in the Bronx. So when we formed that, before we formed that, the crew was known as the Latin Soul Crew, right? Which was my older brother, who used to be a ghetto brother, later on a cool brother. We started the Latin Soul Crew. And we tried to convince him, yo, name it Mastermind. No, he kept with the Latin Soul Crew. So then me and my little brother decided, you know what? We're gonna be masterminds, you know, but with Latin Soul Crew, me, him, my boy Black Mike, and my cousin.
Yeah.
My cousin decided, look, I wanna make Mastermind Rockers in Brooklyn because there's a lot of rockers over there, and he was a rocker, he wasn't a b-boy. So he started in Grover Cleveland High School with Fano. He recruited Fano,
Yeah.
right? And started the Mastermind Rockers, right? So then we, on 183rd, I recruited my boy DJ Nelson, who was a Savage Skull. It's like, yo, let's make this, you know, Mastermind Kru. And so now when my older brother saw they got something going here, the whole Latin Soul Crew became Mastermind Kru. Now we had my brother, and we was more of families. Like Black Mike, it was him and his 3 brothers. My brother Pee Wee, me, my other brother. We had my boy, right, Webb 169. So then he was, his brother Flacco was Savage Skull. They were handball players and graffiti writers, you know? So then like, as we expanded, I started seeing Batch Name and Boz. I know Boz BF.
Yeah.
He was like Track's mentor, Star Child. So I call him Boz BF because that's why he used to tag. Boz BF, Bronx Family, or Bronx Familia. His partner was Bud. And then I used to see Batch, TBB, on all the buses. So we was one of the main ones tagging on them same buses. Because on Webster where I live, you had the 41 bus and you had the 11 bus. So then what we would do, we would walk over to Tremont. On Tremont, we catch the 41, the 40, the 42 bus, and the 36 bus. So that was like a main spot right there where you could hit up every bus that came through. And one of the main names was Batch TVB on those buses, you know? So as years went on, my older brother, some of the older members started going to prison. And then that's how I got to meet Batch, going to visit my brother in Caxsackie. Batch happened to be locked up there with him, you know? Because like, a lot of people don't want to talk about it. You know, the dances, you know, we should have fun, you know, but like they said in the earlier video, there was a lot of violence there. And that was what we used to do, you know, rob other crews. You know, that's one thing. When you went to jams, you got to watch who's looking at you. Because some people looking at your sneakers, some people looking at your chain or whatever. You know, we got into stuff because nobody else was coming to help us. And, you know, I did what I did so my kids wouldn't have to do it later on, you know? But we eventually met Star Child of Rock, the Mexicans that were on Davidson Avenue, 181st.
Wanda and the,
Yeah, Wanda, my boy
Could you speak a
Hermski.
could you speak a little bit on them?
The only dude that I really knew was Hermski from the Mexicans. I knew him. I knew up the block for him was CC Kru, Karate Manny. We go way back from kids. Me and Karate Manny started hanging out with my little brother, Ralphie.
Wow.
That's how I met Karate Manny. You know, and everybody knew him as CC Manny, but we knew him as Karate Manny because we knew he knew karate.
So some people
His
call
Uncle
CC.
Rios used to teach me karate at Gramercy Boys Club. So that's how I knew Karate Manny.
Yeah, he goes by both names.
Yeah.
But it depends on, you know, how you know him from
Right.
where. Yeah.
So a lot of people don't know that, like, that we knew each other. You know what I'm saying? We didn't run together. Later on, we ran together doing some other stuff which had nothing to do with dancing. Let's just put it that way, you know. We wound up getting in trouble. Everybody's getting locked up. You know, but before the battling that it became hip hop, people said, oh, you know, if you had beef, is it true? You didn't know. If we have beef, we have beef.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
No one's, you know, going to sit there and say, well, let's battle and dance.
No.
A
And
lot of times, dancing caused battle.
that's what I was going to say. And a lot of times you go to another neighborhood and they're like, who are these guys coming in here? Who's the mastermind? Oh, you know, and then we start dancing or doing stuff or even rocking on the mic because me and my little brother were MCs, right? So then, and people get mad and now they want to fight you.
Yep.
No, you dissed me or you said something about me or, you know, that move you did, you know, I don't like that shit, you don't like. So now you got to fight your way back to your block, which in turn, what we started doing was throwing our own jams at 28 Schoolyard and Anthony Avenue.
Okay.
People don't understand. Some of my members, people will say like, yo, they were Salsa Crew. And it's not, right? Because if you went to 176 and Anthony Avenue, where we was at, you had Mastermind Crew, you had the Salsa Crew, you had Midnight Lovers Crew, and Rock the House Crew.
Okay.
And we all ran together.
So those are all rocking crews?
Those were all rocking crews. At the time, it wasn't really like a rocking crew because we was more like almost like a gang, right? We just formed a thing because we got to protect this piece of neighborhood, right? This piece, and we started on Claremont, from Claremont to 176, and then later on to 183rd.
Okay.
So we had to protect those little areas. But it just so happened, we were DJs, we were MCing, and we were dancing.
So at that time, did you ever run into TBB, you know, at these events and see them?
Oh, yeah. I seen a few of the members. I knew Danny Dan,
Yeah.
the beat man. I know him from T-Bout, you know, because when I moved to 183rd, I started running into more of them.
Yeah.
Right, because they're over here, they're on Jerome, they're in Pole Park,
Yeah.
they're on T-Bout, they're on Webster, you know, and I'm coming from Claremont and Webster,
Yeah.
up there as a teenager.
So a lot of people may know this narrative, and a lot of people may not know this narrative. That, you know, back then what we know is like breaking crews is more like a family. So you just didn't have b-boys in your crew. You had writers. You had, you know, people who were just, you know, around and all of that stuff.
We had some people who were just stick-up kids,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
all they
yeah.
did. And when we brought our equipment, guess who was standing there? The stick-up kids. You know, now, when the older members, like Batch, my older brother Frankie, Pee-wee, Pete, all these older dudes that were out there doing stick-ups, when they got arrested, and they were, so then now the younger members felt like, we don't want to fight no more, right? And that's where the battling came into, where instead of fighting, we're gonna battle. Like it said on the video, put down the guns, let's battle. And that's where that came from later. And then it became more of we're a dancing crew.
Okay. One last question. What are your thoughts on, you know, TBB, you know, celebrating the 50th anniversary, and you being back then and seeing these guys, you know, in the neighborhood, and you know, because it was rough back then, you know, still seeing a lot of the OGs. They're now OGs, or you guys are all now OGs now, and seeing all that. What are your thoughts of it? You know, we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of TBB.
To me, It's amazing if you think about it. It is, because we came from nothing. We didn't have nothing. We were just trying to express ourselves any way that we could, whether it was on the wall, you know, get your name on. I remember a guy would say, "Why you putting writing on the wall?" I said, "Because I want to be popular. I want people in Brooklyn to see my tag and say, who's this dude?" You know what I'm saying? I want people in Queens to see the tag, who's this dude? You know, that's how when I met Bonds, he's like, "Oh shit, you RS?" I said, "Yeah, I'm already." But he already knew me. He just didn't know I used to write RS TFT. You know, now I wanted to throw a little thing in about Flint. You know Flint?
Yep, I know.
Okay. Flint knew me when he was one of the outlaws from Claremont, where I grew up at, right? When I moved uptown, before I met Bronx Boys, I met the Bronx Boys Short Shots.
Short Shots, which Flint was in.
Flint was the founder of Bronx Boys Short Shots. He went from outlaw. Now they were down with like the Latin Symbolics and these people. They were more of a ballroom dancers and hustle dancers. Because before, you know, yeah, it was hustle, but in order for them to get into competition, they had to do ballroom, which is really the hustle. You know, that's what they was doing. But before then, you know, but it's funny because we all knew each other. Batch knew him, you know, and it was like, I don't think Batch thought, you know, it might be a little beef or nothing.
Trace told me stories about the Bronx Boys Short Shots.
Yeah.
And they later merged because they weren't like, and originally they were their own separate thing. Later on, they merged.
Right.
TBD.
Later on, because, you know, they knew Bash, they knew Esther, they knew Frank Rojas and them people, you know, Frank Rojas used to be with Latin Symbolics too. So, you know, they all kind of merged together and agreed to, okay, listen, this is the Bronx Boys. You know what I'm saying? Drop the Short Shots and it's just Bronx Boys. You know, but combining what Batch was doing with what they was doing.
Okay.
You know?
So at this point, we're going to conclude. I appreciate you. You're the man. You Slick Rick. Always coming through with good energy, good vibes. Your energy and your vibes pop out when I see you on like Instagram. So we appreciate you. We appreciate your comment, man.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate everything. You know, you said some good things about me. A lot of people don't, man. But thank you, bro. I really appreciate you, man. And meeting you guys, you know, as long as I've known you, you know, it's the same feeling, bro.
Yeah,
same feeling.
Every time we see each other.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're gonna dance some Hibalo music. Yeah.